Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm back with a tag video. The most read authors tag. So, I was tagged in this by Marco over at Chasing Epiphanies, link to his channel down in the description below. The original creator is Jeremy Fee, I think, and you can find their channel again in the description below. And so this is a fairly straightforward tag. Just list the authors you've read the most books from. Now, I want to say a couple of things before I start. I read a lot of fantasy, if you did not realize this, and I really like series. So finding authors I read a lot from, not difficult. It was just a matter of finding the ones I've read the most of from. And I did use Goodreads like Jeremy did, and I also used this app because Goodreads no longer has most authors, most books read from an author stat on their page, but I used this website slash tool online called Book Stats, and one of the stats it gives you is authors and number of books read to help me out. I was not surprised by the results at all. I'm going with the top 15 like Marco did because it worked out quite nicely. These are all authors I've read 10 or more books from. And actually, no, it's more than that. I think we're doing 12 or more, or is it? Yeah, 12 or more. And this is by my Goodreads stats. I noticed when looking at this, there's at least one author that is undercounted, which means I haven't let Goodreads know that I've read all of those books. But there's at least one series by one author where I know I've read 50 books from, and it doesn't have that here. So it's okay, but Goodreads stats. So I will go in order from 15 to number 1. If you have watched my favorites videos, a series where I'm talking about my favorite authors or series, in a particular genre, subgenre, I've been putting those videos out here and there for over the last year or so. If you've been watching those, then these won't be a surprise at all. But yeah, so starting from the bottom to 15 and 14, I'm kind of guessing at, and I added these two in because I made it to 13, and then I was like, oh yeah, I did it. 13's a awkward number for most people, not for me or a lot of witches, but let's go for 15 and include these two. So we're gonna start out with an obvious one, at least for those in the West, that being William Shakespeare. I have read roughly, because I was trying to figure it out, and roughly 12 of his works, plays or sonnets, poems, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, I do want to read more. I'm actually looking at my Barnes & Noble Special Edition Complete Works of Shakespeare, which I do want to read more. I attempted to read Macbeth because I couldn't remember the details of it. I did read that in high school. But yeah, so, the big ones, things that have mostly been made into God knows how many movies. And there are more that I would like to get to, but yeah, William Shakespeare comes in at number 15. Now, number 14, another popular classic author Conan Doyle, the author of the Shakespeare, Sherlock Holmes collection. I have read to date all 4 of the full novels that he's written and roughly half of the 56 short stories. I do want to read all of them. I have an ebook that is a complete collection of Sherlock Holmes. So I've been making my way through that over the past couple of years. It's been kind of slow the last 1 or 2 years, but I still am interested in reading more. So yeah, the rest that I have to read is all short stories. I know I have the casebook of Sherlock Holmes to read, his last bow, and then there's one other which I don't remember that collection that I've started. But yeah, so those are the obvious, everyone reads these guys. Now, here's the thing. Now we get into authors that tie up. So I'm going to go through these a little quicker. Coming in at number 13, tied together, we have Lynn Ewing, who's a kind of fantasy romance author that I enjoy. Then there's Charlaine Harris, who's paranormal romance. There are several series from hers that I've read over the years, and some I'm giving up on, others I'm tentatively continuing on with. I've only completed one of her series, and that's because she actually finished it. There are many that are still ongoing. Then Sarah J. Maas, BookTube darling, YA fantasy romance series writer. She's relatively new compared to literally everyone else on this list I will be talking about, but I've read all of the Throne of Glass series, and with the latest exception, all of the Court of Thorns and Roses series. So, next, the last tied authors for 13 is Robin D. Owens, and she has the Heartmate series, and yeah, I've read roughly half of those, and I think that might be more than 13 books. So what's funny is all of these 4 authors I've read 13 books of, and they fall into 13th place. Now, in 12th place with 14 books read, I have Jim Butcher. I have read all of one of his series, the name of which I'm forgetting right now, that had 6 books in it. It was like a Roman inspired fantasy series that I love and want to reread. And then, of course, there's Dresden Files, which I am 2 books behind now. But yeah, so 14 books puts him at spot number 12. For 11th place on my list, there is J.R. Ward, and I've read from 2 of her series for a total of 16 books. So I've read a chunk of the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, which I am behind on because I stopped reading for a while. I do hope to eventually catch up. And the Angel series, I've read 4 of those books, I believe. So that puts her in 11th place. Now, for 10th place, we have 3 authors tied. So again, I'm going to go through those a little quicker. There's Suzanne Brockman with 17 books read. She writes romantic suspense, and at one point she was my favorite romantic suspense author. Honestly, thinking about it, she probably still is. I haven't read a lot of other romantic suspense in a while. Then Kay Hooper, 17 books as well. I don't know what to classify this as exactly. It's urban fantasy, have more heavy on the urban, and yeah, the FBI thriller series is mostly what I read that I want to keep going with because it's very interesting. And lastly, Brandon Sanderson, a new addition. I started reading his books last year. So, yes, I've read 17 Brandon Sanderson books. Maybe it was 2 years ago I started. So, not new to writing himself as an author, but new to me. Newer to me than Sarah J. Maas. But yeah, so that's our third author in 10th place. Now, ninth place with 18 books read is Patricia Briggs. And actually, literally, earlier today finished that 18th book. I've got 2 more I'm probably going to read in the next week or so. She's got 2 series that I mainly read. That is the Alpha and Omega series and the Mercy Thompson series. They're both set in the same world. These are urban fantasy. There is romance in both, but it's not the main plot line, though it is a major point, I guess. And it's not very romantic. They're a little more realistic, even though this is urban fantasy. But yeah. Next, in 8th place, Anne Bishop. I have read 20 books written by Anne Bishop, the majority of these from the Black Jewel series, the latest of which released this year, and I read this year. There's her The Others series, and then a couple of her duologies I've read. So, 20 books. She's one of my favorite authors. Next, in 7th place, we have a tie for 3 authors, 27 books each. There's Christine Feehan, a lot of paranormal romance series. Most of them are long-running, ongoing. I don't know if I'm going to keep going with at least 2 of them, but there's a couple of others that I am interested in continuing. Then there's Stephanie Lawrence, who I think is the only non-fantasy author on this list. No, that's not true. Okay. But one of the few, and this is historical romance, and mostly I just love her Censor series, so check that out. And lastly, J.D. Robb, which is a pseudonym for Nora Roberts. I've read, according to what I've marked on Goodreads, 27 books, but I know, because she only uses this name for one series, and I know I've read the 50 books of it. There are currently, I think, 52 out. I've read 50 that I know. So, I need to update that. Moving on to 6th place, Nora Roberts in her regular name. I have read 28 books. I know that was also incorrect. I have a whole suitcase full of just Nora Roberts. So I need to update that. Next, in 5th place. Before I get into that, Nora Roberts writes romance. Some historical, some contemporary, some a little bit of magic, maybe magical realism, but more just slight fantastical elements, I guess. Some witches, some mythological creatures, that kind of thing, but set in modern day times. 5th place. Now, this is the only foreign author. And this is making me realize that I never marked the other manga really that I've completed or read through. But coming in with 30 books is Hajime Isayama, the author of the Attack on Titan series. I know off the top of my head there's at least one other manga author that I've read more than this of. So, with more work, I'll come with an update maybe in a year or so for this series. But yeah, Attack on Titan is a Japanese anime and manga series. The manga is ahead of the animated series. And this is a fantasy world where these people are stuck behind walls to protect them from titans that eat human beings. It's very violent and very emotional. There is good character development. So if you don't mind the violence and the very dramatic emotionalness, check it out. Oh, number 4 is Mercedes Lackey with 31 books. I don't know if this is all of the books, but she has a series, The Heralds of Valdemar, or is it just the Valdemar series? But you can look up either on Goodreads. There was a time, I was in I think, freshman or sophomore year of college, where I just happened to come across this series in the library. The library didn't have it all. Though in the bookstore didn't have them all, and I swept through it. This is a series of series. There are a lot of books, but they are short because it's, I guess, YA. YA fantasy series that actually I wouldn't mind rereading, but I don't own those books. So, but I know last year I randomly saw one of the covers and I was like, I should mark that on Goodreads. And I did until I got tired. So I'm not sure if that's all the books in the Valdemar series. Now, also tied in 4th place is Nalini Singh with 31 books. Nalini Singh has 2 series that I'm currently reading that are currently ongoing. There is the Side Changeling series, which I'm trying to catch up on, and the Something Hunter series. I forget the name off the top of my head, but you'll see it here. Woo! Nalini Singh came on the scene several years ago, and I happily read the first books from her and fell in love. She immediately became a new favorite author from me. I recently saw that she's branched out into some other genres, because both of those series I mentioned are paranormal romance / urban fantasy, even though they're both a little bit futuristic. So now the top three. Coming in 3rd place is probably a surprise because I have not mentioned this author really. Laura Lay with 36 books read. Laura Lay writes basically erotic fiction. There's some stuff, not a little bit, but quite a bit of her books straddle the line between erotica and just like smutty romance. They used to be very taboo. I discovered her through an indie publisher before she got picked up by a bigger publisher, and I've just been going with it since. This is not a no plot smutty erotic author. There's plot, and it's usually built up over time with several books. So some of her stuff is like straightforward contemporary, and others are like paranormal romance, like the Breeds series. So I'm behind on all of her series, but I do want to continue reading all of them, basically. Second place goes to Sherilyn Kenyon, one of my favorite authors, with 46 books. And that is honestly only because in the past few years she's been having some issues that I don't want to get into here. But she writes the Dark Hunters universe, which involves several series. The Dark Hunters, Were Hunters, Dream Hunters, whatever. It's this elaborate world which was very unique at the time it started, and it still kind of is. So I want to do a reread, or at least a reread of the last 10 books, if not the whole thing. I have reread these books several times. I have not reread any of the last 10 books, though. So it might be time. She has a couple of other series as well. One is like a sci-fi thing, and another is this tie-in to a pseudonym she has, Kinley McGregor, where it's a historical romance type of situation, and another series where it's contemporary, like detective agency. So there's all romance involved in all of them, FYI, if romance is not your thing, to varying levels depending on the book and the series. So number one, the author that I've read the most of surprises me not at all, as didn't number two. That will be Laurel K. Hamilton, my favorite author, or one of, with Sherilyn and Nalini. She has written 2 series and is about to come out with the 3rd for the first time in forever. The main series that she writes, my favorite, is the Anita Blake Vampire Huntress series. And the other series she has is the Mary Gentry series. These are both urban fantasy. Let's say that, yes. Mary Gentry is dealing with the Fae, and Anita Blake is dealing with Anita Blake, who is a necromancer. There's vampires and werewolves and all kinds of other things in that series. And it's very interesting. I think the new series that she's about to come out with her first book in is more a detective one. So I'm interested to see how that's gonna go. But yeah, so those are my most read authors. My top 15. Let me know if you've read any of these authors. If you know that there are more books, put them down below. If you feel like it, I'll figure it out. Like as you saw, I realized I was reading. I'm like, yeah, there's some missing here. There should be some changes in order, and then there's definitely some others that should probably be on here because it's been a while. So I've talked about more than 15 authors because I went by ranking, and 3 or 4 rankings had ties of several authors. But yeah, like there's like JD Robb. That's all one series. That's all one series. That's what I mean by like I like long series. I like series and I like things with a lot of books. So yeah, when I finish Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, that'll be bumped up. I'm pretty sure it's not 14th place. I just couldn't. I didn't feel like counting all of the short stories that I have read. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Who are your top most read authors in the comments? Let me know down below. And if you want to do this tag, go ahead and do it. I am not very close with very many people on BookTube, but let me see. Who would I tag? Staff at Novelty Corner, Mina Reads, Deja's Book World, and let's see, who else? Plant-Based Bride, another YouTuber whose content, like mine, is not just books, but she does have a lot of bookish content. So do go check all of them out. Links down in the description below. I will notify them so that they've been tagged. Thanks again to Marco at Chasing Epiphanies for tagging me. I enjoyed watching his video. Go watch his. And to Jeremy Fee for creating this tag. Like this video, guys, if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.